All right, welcome back, America. We're here in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. For those outside of Pennsylvania, the way Bucks County goes is the way the country goes in elections. This is one of the most influential counties in America. We're at the AMAC Bootcamp For Boomers, a really incredible opportunity to really activate the masses of Americans who want to save this country in the November election. Our first conversation today is with someone I've known for a long time. She is an extraordinary business entrepreneur. She was an ambassador for President Trump, the U.S. Senate candidate here in Pennsylvania just a few short years ago. Ambassador Carla Sands. Madam Ambassador, great to have you here today.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everybody. You could be anywhere you would want to be this morning, and you came here, and I just want to thank you. You should give yourselves a hand for showing up and fighting for our country. Thank you. And can I just say also, John Solomon is a national treasure. I don't know. I watch him on Real America's Voice at 6 o'clock. It's a great slot. It's a time to make dinner and watch you guys talk about what's happening, and you see the real news, not the fake news. But I'm so honored to be here among you because we're all in this room determined to save our country and fight to save our constitutional rights. The greatest country ever made in the world, in the history of the world, and we're like on the razor's edge of slipping into communism and totalitarianism because of the forces on the left. It's extraordinary how fast they've moved. But I'm an 8th generation Pennsylvanian. I'm from Cumberland County, and I did run for the Senate after I was a businesswoman with a portfolio mostly of real estate and private equity. I went to serve as our U.S. ambassador, worked to counter Russia and China, did things like block Nord Stream 2, the Russian gas pipeline. The only place it wasn't done was my area of responsibility. Thank you. Worked to counter China with blocking Huawei, the big 5G company that was trying to implement in Denmark, and then also put a consulate in Greenland. And those were 3 achievements I had. But right now, I'm focused on 2024 in this November. So thank you for welcoming me.
Madam Ambassador, it's so great to have you. You know Pennsylvania better than anyone. You said 8 generations of family members here. It's amazing.
That's right.
I want to dive into the electoral dynamic here in a second. But before we do that, you've had this extraordinary career. You worked for President Trump. You were on the front lines of diplomacy. What are some of the memories that you take from that time that I think could influence all of us as we go into the 2024 election?
Well, working with President Trump was unbelievable. He was the best boss, and was honored to be in the Oval and hear his proposals. He didn't always like my response, but I am a straight talker. But it was extraordinary. And to work with Mike Pompeo, who really brought great organization and power to the State Department. I think I was the luckiest ambassador to have Mike Pompeo be the Secretary of State.
Yeah, his tenure is extraordinary. I want to just pause, remind people what the world looked like when we handed the keys over to Joe Biden. The world was stable. America was leading on every front. We had peace in the Middle East breaking out. Now we have such extraordinary disarray and chaos in every part of the world. How do our allies and our enemies look at us right now based on what Joe Biden has done the last 3.5 years?
John, they look at us as weak. They look at us as weak because we have a corrupt, compromised president in the White House who also doesn't seem to be, according to the DOJ, completely cogent, right? He can't even stand trial. So that the Democrats have continued to push him forward is extraordinary. It should be an easy win for President Trump, but it's not going to be because they're trying to put him in prison for 700 years. It's extraordinary. He is locked up in a courtroom, not able to campaign, not able to be out on the trail. And that's why all of us, he can't do it alone, all of us in this room and your friends need to be his foot soldiers to talk about the America First policies that are going to bring back American glory so that we have the ability to live our beautiful American life and preserve that dream for our kids and grandkids.
Yeah, it's amazing. And you're right, you can't even respond to certain criticisms of him because the judge has put a gag
He's
order.
gagged.
It's unbelievable in America that would be the case. A couple years ago, you ran for U.S. Senate. It's an extraordinary experience. I know any candidate gets out and gets to visit with the American people, learn so much. What are some of your biggest takeaways from that experience?
It was extraordinary to go all through our beautiful Commonwealth and see the glory, the majesty of our nature, meet so many people from diverse backgrounds, faiths, but also businesses, to meet the business people and understand that we were losing congressional seats, that our GDP was not growing, and that our energy wasn't growing as fast as it should be growing. The takeaway is that we have to win. My goal is we win, they lose. And what I saw while I ran, and many of you are not going to like this in this room, but I saw that we don't vote early. Even though Act 77 was a Republican plan to give us 50 days of early voting in 2019, before the pandemic, Republicans haven't embraced this, but Democrats have. And in my race, the day of the election, John Fetterman, who shows that candidate quality doesn't matter, but mechanics do, how you work to win matters more than who you're working for. They had almost about 1 million ballots banked on Election Day. Mehmet Oz had about 250,000 on Election Day, 4-1. So if we have 50 days of early voting, anyone who would ignore those 50 days is a fool, because it takes those 50 days to counter the other side who's using every day. So I believe it's September 16th is the first day of early voting this year. So that's the most important day of the year, not November 5th. It's September 16th, I think. You can check my math. I think we're about 196 days out from the election day, but that's not our day. The first day is our day. We have time in those 50 days to get everybody in our church and at the gun shows registered to vote, either for a mail-in ballot or just register to vote, whichever they're comfortable with. But then we can help them fill out their ballot. We can help them put the stamp on it. It's all legal. We can help them close it and put it in the mailbox, or we can drive them to our county board election office and let them vote early. They have 50 days. How much can we do in 50 days? It's almost 2 months. It's extraordinary. So if we are supposed to be the light and the salt on earth, God's hands on earth, right, walking out our faith, you got to use all 50 days. Don't tell me they're going to count the ballots and they're going to bring in more. They're going to bring in more. But we have 50 days to beat them.
Yeah, and it's really important to note a lot of the races in 2020 were settled just by 10 or 20,000 votes. A little bit of early voting would have made a huge difference. I use the example of Ron Johnson in Wisconsin. In 2022, Ron Johnson and Tim Michels were identical candidates. They were endorsed by Trump. They faced the same $20 million in anti-abortion advertising. Ron Johnson won by 60,000 votes, and Tim Michels lost by about 20,000. The difference, Ron Johnson ran an early voting campaign. And for those who want to have real-life examples, can Republicans engage and win? That's case study number one. And I think with what AFPI is doing, AFW, America First Policy Institute, they've started an action group. There's over 100 folks that are 100 groups that are now out engaging people, trying to get them to vote early, get them to register, going out and get what are known as low propensity voters. I think it's the secret sauce for Republicans in 2024.
I think you're right, John. In fact, Glenn Youngkin, the governor of Virginia, wouldn't be governor today if he didn't do a huge push for early voting. He got 60% of the Republicans to vote early in Virginia for his election, and he won, and that's why he won. Can I talk a little bit about AFPI and
please.
AFW?
I think it's one of the most exciting things out there.
So I am honored to be the vice chair for energy and environment. Energy is our second biggest industry here in Pennsylvania after farming, agriculture. Agriculture is about $81 billion to our GDP here in Pennsylvania, but we are second in energy only to Texas. And so I'm the vice chair for energy and environment, and then I'm the chair for the Pennsylvania State chapter. And we have a wonderful executive director, Mary Stifler. You all may see her around during this season. We're working with the Pennsylvania legislature and the Pennsylvania Senate to help good policies get passed. We're working on things like election integrity, like good energy policies, for instance, like education opportunity. But we also have a C4 arm, and I'm a senior advisor at America First Works. And America First Works is working every day in Pennsylvania in those 4 key counties, Allegheny, Bucks, Chester, and there's one more. I'll think of it. Anyway, we have 4 key counties of the 19 in the country that we need to win. So Bucks County being here is so important. America First Works has a website, americaworks.com. Sorry, americaworks.com. If you go there, you can get on our Telegram channel. And every week on our Telegram channel, we have trainings for how to win in this election run by people like Grant Stinchfield and Lee Zeldin. And so we'd love you to sign up also to be a messenger and message your friends and family so that they're encouraged to vote. So we have a kind of an outreach, a way to harvest your friends and communicate with them, because that's the best way to influence people, is people who you already know and have a relationship with. So we're excited about this effort. This is, like you said earlier, the first time since Ronald Reagan that Republicans are coming together to say, we're done. We don't want the communists and the awful people that are in charge to continue to be in charge and take our nation down this terrible dystopian path.
Yeah, you think about 2020, just 50,000 additional early votes would have swung almost every one of those states. That's how close these races are, and I think this is one of the most exciting things I've seen as a reporter in a long time. The conservatives are going to go head-to-head for the first time in early voting. It's going to make a big difference. Madam Ambassador, 2016, Pennsylvania went with Donald Trump. Donald Trump won the presidency. In 2020, it went with Joe Biden. Joe Biden won the presidency. Donald Trump up in the polls. The average of polls have him up about a point or so in Pennsylvania now. What's changed? What's put Pennsylvania back in the red column right now?
Well, I think it's because we are largely a blue-collar state. We understand these policies are bad. We're not ivory tower people where we look down and we see these Hamas protesters on campuses and we see boys playing in girls' sports and we say, yeah, that's fine, that's good, I'm going to vote for that. Absolutely not. We're common sense Pennsylvanians. And so understanding our roots and how we have a glorious past in Pennsylvania. We're a wealthy state with all of these resources and educational excellence. So to regain that, we need the policies of the America First agenda. And if you think about how we, under President Trump, his leadership, we brought down regulations, we lowered taxes, we made it possible to start a small business, to be successful. We had secure borders. We had no new foreign wars. In fact, he defeated ISIS. He did historic diplomacy with North Korea. He secured our southern border. The fentanyl was reduced. All of our communities have been affected by fentanyl. I've lost a relative to death because of fentanyl. We've all been affected. And this is because of the Biden administration's policy welcoming gang members, terrorists, others coming over our southern border and not putting the American people first. And so in order to bring back security, prosperity, the good times, so we can hand a better country over to our kids, we want to bring back those America First policies that certainly President Trump, in my lifetime, was the best president to put those forward.
It's really interesting. Ideas matter. I mean, that's one of the things conservatives always win when they lead with ideas. If you look at President Trump's polling numbers, when he started those 5-minute video policies and reminded people what he did and what he would do different in 2024, his polling numbers just kept going up. American people love substance. This is a substance election, and those policy debates right now are winning. It's very much like what Reagan did with the fireside chats.
That's right. If you look at how he brought back manufacturing, and he brought those opportunity zones so that towns in Pennsylvania that have been hollowed out, 30,000, now 5,000, those devastated towns, they were coming back. We want to bring that back, and then I'm hoping that we have another America First president after President Trump so that we can really regain our glory as the leader in the free world, but also the beacon of hope for the world.
Yeah, run the table, 12 years. That's what
right.
I think a lot of people are talking about, bigger plans. Culture is politics. Politics is culture. What's the big culture issue that you think 2024's election will turn on?
Well, for Republicans, I think that it's faith, it's family, it's education, making sure boys aren't playing in girls' sports. That Title IX that Biden just did, I think that's very galvanizing. The Second Amendment is very important to Republicans, that we preserve that. But I think on the left, it's actually abortion. I think I see the banners behind President Biden about reproductive freedom and bring back Roe. And so we better all begin to speak with a strong voice, a wise voice, understanding that voters are incremental. You can't go from everything to zero. You have to walk them there by showing, by teaching. 80% of the American voters, the American people, want abortion to be legal. America has the most radical abortion policies in the civilized world, in the Western world. Europe, where I served, Denmark, 12 weeks. Sweden had 16. Almost all of them had 12 weeks of legal abortion. Pennsylvania's 24. So what I'll say is, rather than try to push for 0, let's have the idea that we support life, we love babies, we're pro-babies, but we're not going to demonize the suburban mom that's going to preserve that right for her teenage daughter. Because if we do, if we let the left own this issue, they won in 2023, and we should have won. Now the mechanics, we weren't voting early, but they also were pushing the right. And in Texas and Florida, I'm very worried. In Pennsylvania, we are not, I don't think we're discussing changing the 24 weeks. I think it's high, but I think we should leave it alone, and we should win this election, and we should take back our country. But I hope that if you're a person who goes to church or synagogue, that you're going to turn to the people at your place of worship, and you're going to ask them, are you registered to vote, and are you going to vote? Because the freedom of religion is already gone in Canada. They're putting people in jail for quoting the Bible. So this is an extraordinary attack on faith as well. I believe it's a spiritual war. If you look at the trans agenda and this Hamas agenda and the spiritual issues around it, we're fighting a big battle, and I really hope that you will walk out your faith this November, or this September, actually, September 16th.
Start early. Madam Ambassador, I think one of the things I've been looking at polling data, it does seem that when Republicans flip this debate around and portray the Democrats as the extremists, meaning they're willing to have abortion up to birth and even after birth.
That's right.
In Minnesota, there's a report that shows every year about 5 to 6 children are born alive and they're allowed to die on the table without medical assistance. That can't possibly be a winning issue for Democrats. Is it time to flip the argument? Are the Democrats the extremists?
Can you flip the argument in every conversation you have? Did you know that every single Senate Democrat voted against the Born Alive bill? That means if a baby is born during an abortion, which I've met people that were born from an abortion, if they're born, they have to let them die. They have to put them in a closet. That's infanticide. That's ultimate evil. So that it is a spiritual battle, and we have to be on the winning side. So put that out there. They're literally, the governor of Virginia, the past governor of Virginia said, yeah, you have a discussion after the baby's born. You want to let it live or not? He said that even up until 10 or 14 days after the birth. That's horrific. That's so barbaric. I can't. So tell them.
Yeah, flip the script. There's plenty of data and information to do it. And the polling shows that 80% of Americans oppose late-term abortions, and certainly any effort to deny care to a baby that's already been born. So it's a winning issue. We just haven't exercised it as brilliantly as we could. We got about a minute left. You're in a room full of patriots, Madam Ambassador. What's your one piece of advice for how they can go out and win this state in 2024?
I'm going to be a broken record. September 16th is the first day of the election. I want you all to commit to vote early and get your friends and family to vote early, either at your county board election office or mail it in. I've been voting by mail for probably 30 years. I can check online, did my vote, was it counted? And if it wasn't, I can call, I can get another ballot. They work with you. We have a terrific operation in Pennsylvania. It's very well run. And they will answer the phone and they will talk to you. So I thank you. Help us get this done, please. You are the foot soldiers for President Trump and all of the Republican candidates. And I really appreciate that you are here and sacrificing your time and your treasure. Thank you.
Yeah, really exciting. Madam Ambassador, on behalf of a grateful nation, thank you for your service to this country. Thanks for all you do to make Pennsylvania so smart. It's great to have you here today.
Thank you, John. Thanks for coming here to Pennsylvania.
Oh, my gosh, I love it. It's one of my favorite states. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to have a panel discussion about the border. Despite what Alejandro Mayorkas says, the border is not secure. We're going to show you just how insecure it is and how dangerous it is right after these messages.
Thanks, John.
That's great. Thank you. Awesome. Good to have you here.